Now this is the new BMW X3 and it's a new car. It's not just a facelift, it's a very different design. The underfloor is different, the dimensions are different, it's wider, it's a little shorter and sportier, and the suspension and aggregates and engines are thoroughly updated or new. No surprise that BMW has gone through all the trouble of putting out an all-new car. This, ladies and gentlemen, is currently BMW's best-selling model internationally. Now, this is the 4th generation X3, the 3rd to come to India, and it will arrive sometime early next year. So big change in the styling department, and it's not just the detail, it's the skinning of it. While the earlier car was muscular and sinewy, this one's more plain surfaces, less details, less folds. Look at this bonnet, for example. It's absolutely clean except for this one fold here and these two to highlight the BMW badge. Of course, that's the kidney grille, which you can get illuminated in some markets. And of note is the fact that it gets these really different sort of slats, almost diagonal and vertical, a combination of that. That's different, it looks fresh, it looks new. These headlights, some people say they look like the Angry Bird, and again, big open spaces here, big open surfaces to give this car a more rounded, larger and cleaner look. From the side, again, that clean look. Look at the clamshell bonnet here, absolutely clean, and you can't even tell there's a wheel arch, very different for a BMW. BMW always had those well-defined black wheel arches. So a new look there. This one gets 20-inch wheels. You can get 18s, 19s, 20s. Smaller wheels for India, that's the mantra. This car is longer and it is shorter, it's sportier. The wheelbase is almost the same, and other details are this line that extends up here. Of course, a very tiny Hofmeister kink, and this section is blacked out to make it look like one unit. You can see the roof is more coupe-like on this one. It's curved, you can see the curvature, and this integrated spoiler, nicely done. Nice effect here, this double bubble effect gives it some really good definition. The rear windscreen is narrower, and again in the rear, very plain surfacing. It makes it look wider at the back, nice planted stance, and you have this stylistic line, this cut going across. X320, that's the new way BMW is writing its nomenclature, its name for its cars. And down below, no exhaust visible, just that big black diffuser. Also interesting, the manner in which these tail lights, these arrow-shaped tail lights, have evolved from the current car. They look pretty attractive and they define the rear nicely. Now the boot is slightly larger at 570 liters, and once you take a look inside, you also realize that there is space for this space saver. You can put a space saver tire here, and it comes with a lot of practical features. You have this parcel tray. Of course, it's a bit hard and easy to use. There's hooks here, interesting hook there. There's a 12-volt socket here which you can use, and more hooks on the other side. But this space is a bit tight, and that's because of the coupe roof. Oh, and I almost forgot. This must be one of the few BMWs in the recent past where we haven't said the grille is too large. But what do you think? Down in the comments. Come on, let me hear. On the inside, BMW says it has worked to add individual style to the X3's cabin. And the good thing is, there's nothing really generic about this design. So a wider cabin, straight up, and a very different looking one from what we had on the earlier car. There's this meshed fabric here that looks really different and stands out from the digital stuff. Don't know how well it'll stand up to our dusty conditions. And there's this large tray in the center. We can keep all sorts of things, charging pads, 2-cup holders, and this nice M logo here. The other big difference is that there's a lot of illumination, big bands here, right across here, and it really does light up, including these wedges along on both sides. The large curved display comes from the iX, and of course it's a BMW, so everything's curved in towards the driver. That's an old tenet that BMW had for years, that dashboard tilted towards the driver, and this is pretty similar. What you also get are these vents that are controlled from this slider here. You can increase the air volume or reduce it, go from 1 to 0 and then back up again. And you also have your lock and unlock on this pod which moves when you press it, giving you some haptic feedback, as well as a seat memory here. You also get X3 in case you forget which car you're in. So you also get the new operating system. It's called Operating System 9. And of course, seamless integration of Apple CarPlay. Now this new system is based on Android open source, so your maps are continuously updated and you have a lot of the features that you get with that system. Also nice is the fact that this personal assistant feature has been incorporated into the left half or the left quarter of this screen. It tells you how to do things. It plays mini videos for you to make it easy, how to park, how to adjust these vents, these digital vents, and you get stuff like your battery status on your phone while it's being charged, points of interest, and you have your vehicle information here as well. It's done 43 kilometers at 9.1 liters per 100 kilometers. Stuff like weather and other stuff. It works pretty well, and you can have your map on at the same time.
Quality levels in general are pretty good, and this is also a practical cabin.
Now BMW does these pods pretty well. This one gets brushed aluminium here right next to this LED. It looks pretty cool. I like the way this has been sloped off. You get crystal here, piano black, some metal on this volume control, and there's a lot of shortcut buttons here: home, media, telephone, and of course the gear selector with my modes here, which are your driving modes now. Now when it comes to storage, you do get a big sort of tray here where you can keep your phone and other things. It's quite deep and quite practical, almost like an American SUV. Two big cup holders here, USB-Cs, wireless charging, and further back here, a nice sized elbow box. It's pretty large for a car of this size. It feels nice and spacious, and nice quality. Fit finish is also super. On the door pads, again, big door pads here, 3 sections, one for a large bottle, one for something smaller, and one at the rear as well. The glove box, however, is pretty small. It isn't very large.
Plastic quality on the door pads, however, isn't as good as the rest of the cabin. The large seats, however, have a nice blend of comfort and support.
Well-defined bolsters with these sections here which are raised. Nice lateral support, and it feels pretty comfortable and sporty at the same time. It's got a nice balance. So in the back as well, it feels a bit wider, and although the wheelbase hasn't changed much, there is a bit more leg room. I can tell because I've just sat in the earlier generation X3 and I've come straight here, and this one is pretty comfortable. It's more comfortable, especially there's more thigh support. The backrest supports you better. This particular car doesn't have the reclining function down here, so you have to put your hand over your shoulder and recline the rear, but otherwise a much more comfortable rear section. You also get a panoramic sunroof here, and these vents are controlled manually, unlike the ones in front. Plus you get this little screen here to control temperature.
Here are some of the features and options the new X3 comes with in international markets. While the new X3 is built around the CLAR platform, as most predominantly rear-wheel drive BMWs are, engineers say they have reduced weight, increased body rigidity, and have worked on the suspension in a bid to improve cornering. And the new X3 seems to walk the talk.
Now, first impressions of the X3 are of a larger, more planted, more relaxing vehicle to drive. It's got a lighter steering, especially at low speed, and it feels less ponderous than the earlier generation one. It feels more agile and wants to turn more easily. It's happy to turn more easily, and that's pretty refreshing. It's lighter on its feet. Turning in is easier. Changing your line is easier, and unlike the earlier X3 that was a little stodgy in its driving manners, especially when you went a bit quicker, this one feels relaxed, light, agile and pretty fun. The steering isn't great, but the overall driving experience is pretty good, especially in sport. The new X3 is also pretty well contained when it comes to body roll, and now body roll affects SUVs like this less and less, and here, well, it's almost not a factor. Now when it comes to ride quality, it's pretty difficult to judge the ride on roads like these. They're billiard table smooth, and the only thing you sort of feel on these roads are the lines that are painted on the road. They have those rumblers, that texture painted into them in case you fall asleep, and well, that's the only thing we're really feeling here.
Further up on our driving route, we did encounter some bad patches, and here the new X3 did display a hint of initial stiffness, followed by plenty of good pliancy over larger bumps. Under the hood, the 20X drive's 4-cylinder unit is pleasingly smooth and responds well throughout the power band. And this is down to the additional 18 horsepower and 200 Nm from the electric motor.
Now with 208 horsepower, this 2-litre turbocharged engine has just about sufficient power. The X3 has grown in size and it is also fairly portly. So when you put your foot down initially, especially in efficiency mode, you expect it to take a bit of time to get going. But what's nice here is that the bottom end is nice and crisp, and even in efficiency mode, it moves forward pretty smartly.
It is also smoother and more silent.
Now it feels a bit more silent than the earlier car. It's more relaxing, there's less road noise coming in, and overall refinement is better.
The engine does its best work in the mid-range, and keeping it spinning here means performance is both effortless and smooth.
Now with 208 horsepower, flat out performance isn't great, and this engine is a bit vocal, especially at the top. The gearbox, however, is quick, but as soon as you downshift and put your foot down, you get into that sort of noisy and strained part of the power band. A bit more grunt, a bit more performance. Yes, that would have been nice. And hopefully we'll also get the larger 6-cylinder in India.
Remember, the Merc GLC gets 258 horsepower, substantially more.
What does help is pulling this left paddle and getting a bit of extra boost in boost mode. Overboost is something that sports cars had earlier, but now you get a few seconds of that in SUVs like this.
The new 4th generation X3 is a big improvement over the SUV currently sold in India. The fresh new styling works well, the cabin is more spacious and comfortable, and BMW has also upped its game when it comes to fun features and cabin look and feel. It also feels more agile and confidence-inspiring from behind the wheel. It's lighter and easier to drive, and the engine and e-motor also deliver plenty of smooth pep at low and medium speeds. Yes, more power and performance at this price would have been nice. The cabin isn't quite as plush or as upmarket as that of the Mercedes GLC, and some plastics on the inside could have been better built. But what's clear is that the 4th generation X3 is a fresh new take on mid-sized luxury, one that seems almost perfectly aligned with what Indian luxury SUV buyers are looking for in this part of the market. Headed to a BMW showroom near you early next year. Don't sign on the dotted line of your next mid-sized luxury SUV until you have seen and experienced this one.